Good morning.
Ow.
You okay?
Hi. Do we eat?
So ran into a little bit more rust that I found. I didn't know I had this rust. Most of it actually, there's just maybe 2 pinholes, but when I took the wire wheel to it and got the paint off, this is what I found. So, and then if around on this side, it's starting to rust. So I really kind of want to replace all this. And it's not perfectly round. There's kind of a flat section, then a second flat section, then a third, then a fourth. So to bend and round these pieces, I didn't really want to do, and I don't have any of the equipment anyway. So I'm going to show you how I do it. And I'm sure there's a better way, like most things. What I do, and I kind of went ahead and did this, so I wouldn't bore you. I go ahead and I make my patterns. And where you see these patterns is where I'm going to cut out later. But I'm only going to cut one of these out at a time and weld in one piece at a time. And so that'll be one piece. And I've already done this. I'm just sort of re-showing you what I did. So I'm just to give you an idea. And this piece here will have the most bending, but still not very much. Then got one more. And basically that piece will go on the end. So that's what it's going to look like. Now I've jumped ahead. I've pre-cut these out. You'll notice on this one here, there is a hole, and I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill that. I'll do that off camera, because I'm sure you know how to drill a hole. And then what I've done, just jumping forward, these, using my patterns, and just a cutoff disc, these are all my pattern pieces. So now how I'm going to do this is, unfortunately, this is the most difficult piece to do, and I'd like to do it last. But if I start from this end, I really want to maintain this original line here. So I don't want to touch or cut any of this until at the very end. So I'm actually going to start from, yeah, that's the right piece. I think. Or is it? Nope. Gotta find the right piece. That is the right piece. I was thinking it covered here. I'm gonna start by I'm gonna put all these pieces, all the cardboard pieces, taped back on there just how I had them, so I know they're in the right place. And then when I get this one taped where I want, I'll remove all the other cardboard pieces, mark this really well, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut only this piece out first. And then I'm gonna tack weld, and I'll show you some video of that once I get it cut out. I'm gonna tack weld on these 3 sides, but not this side. And then once I get this tack welded in, I will take my next pattern, I think it's this one, yep. I will mark this real well. I'll cut this second one, this will already be welded in. I'll cut this one out. And then I will tack it on 3 sides and kind of sew on. That way I'm only cutting one section out at a time, and it gives me this side to match up. So I'm gonna go ahead and grind these pieces out, drill my 1 hole in this, and then we'll continue in a moment. So I made my first cut that away. You can kind of see how bad it is. I probably could have cut more out, but trying to do the least as possible. And this kind of gives me kind of the shape too that I need to bend my new piece. But I'm sure that I'm gonna have to do a little grinding. Yes, I'm gonna have to. It's pretty dang close actually. So what I'm gonna do is just sort of manipulate and bend. Looking at my sample piece, seems like it's just bent up, and the metal I'm using is a lot thicker than what was there, so it's not as easy to bend. And I'm not overly concerned about getting it perfect, because I know I'm gonna have to go over it with Bondo. Seems like it bends that way, and a little bit that way. Also, when I tack weld it in, what I'll do is I'll start from one side and I'll tack it here, bend it down into place, and just keep tacking it. It's a lot easier to get it to fit that way. So what I gotta do now, if I can find my pencil, I'm going to cut a little off of the length on here. There. Having a little difficulty fitting this first piece in. I've done a little bit of bending, so I'm just going to go ahead and give it a little tack weld because I keep chasing it around. So don't look at it. All right, tiny little tack. Now that's not really going to hold it for much movement. I'm just hoping it'll give me enough. And then we're good up here. What I'm gonna do is we're a little high there. Well, I was gonna tack the end, but I better do it in order. All right. Hate when that happens. A little warm on the fingers. There we go. It's a little hard because this metal is a lot thicker, obviously, than the metal that was there. So I'm not going to show like all the tacking on this one piece. I'm going to go ahead and just put a tack in the corner down here, and just how I worked it up here, I'm going to work it down this edge and kind of bend it. And then we'll follow up with the video of, I'll go ahead and cut this one out. I won't show that on film either. Then I'll show tacking the new one, this next second piece in here. So I'd like to introduce my little helper, little 4-year-old Wombly. And this is the reason I cannot drill out the hole yet, because he ran off with my drill bits and most of my other tools. So he loves coming out and helping Dad. The other day he filled my gas tank full of rocks, dirt, tools, you name it. If he could grab it, it went in Daddy's gas tank. Isn't that right, boy? Yeah? So I forgot to mention, before I cut this piece out, it's very important, while the old piece was still in here, that you get this edge here pretty much bent how you want it. Because once you cut this piece out, you no longer have this corner profile. So off camera, I did do some bending on this. So now I'm going to tack weld this one in, and we'll just keep rolling. Toyotas have thin sheet metal, but one thing I'd point out is I've seen Chevys, Dodges, Fords that are less than 10 years old completely rusted out. And I'd like to point out, am not an auto body person. Everything that I do or try to attempt learn, there's two people that I'd like to mention that are on YouTube. And it's Sean, he's in upstate New York. Hack and Pack Shop is his channel. And then Pete out of Texas, who is actually moving to Moab. And he has 2 channels. I think one's SWRNC, and then he's got one called, I think, My Friend Pete, I think is what it is. But I watch their shows quite a bit. They're very entertaining and informative. So once again, I am not an auto body person. I just play one in my spare time. All right, here we go with the tack. Hope he's not watching there. Don't watch, little boy. Gotta do some finessing here. I pre-fitted this 3rd piece, so I'm going to go ahead and tack it in, and we'll move right on to the next one. So I'll show you a couple tacks here. I tacked the wrong part. That's because my eyes were closed. This is where it gets a little harder because what's left is very flimsy, but this still is where we need to end up. So I've got my welder set down as low as it'll go, and I still burn a few holes. What I'll end up doing, you can see where I've got some blank spots up in here. I've got a piece of brass, and I'll come back and hold that brass underneath, and I'll just fill these spots with weld. Or one last piece, I got to do some shaping. It's just roughly done, but it's way too big. So I'm gonna do some off-camera shaping. I'll cut this piece out, found a drill bit, and we'll go ahead and get this tacked on. And update you then. So I went ahead and welded in this last piece. I probably have to bend it in a little bit more. But this is what it is. It's all tacked in. And then what I'm going to do off camera is go ahead and completely weld it, rough grind, and rough sand it. But just wanted to kind of show the pieces that we took out. That's what was there. And that is what is left. So we'll do one more quick update when I get everything kind of roughed in so you can kind of see what it looks like. So this is kind of the rough outcome. Off camera, I had to make a couple more patches. I had to make a little triangle for in here, and then another patch up in here because the metal is just so thin, couldn't even weld it. So all in all, it's got a good profile, and it's far from being done. I'll have to sand on it some more. Maybe even weld a little pinhole here or there, sand on it some more, and who knows, maybe it won't even need Bondo. I'll probably end up using a little bit of Bondo though, but so that's how I do my patches. And that's going to conclude this video. This was kind of an unforeseen for today. And I'm going to move on to the window, the front windshield, the little rust that I've shown you before on that. I'm not going to do that on camera though. So until next time.